Hey guys, welcome to The Strong Young Man. When enforcing boundaries, giving feedback, or disciplining someone, always use the minimum necessary force to get the desired outcome. Employ subtle hints to assert your point as politely as possible. Deliver your feedback with confidence, but avoid appearing authoritarian, as this will trigger twice the resentment. All you want from any scenario is the desired outcome, so why do you think at any stage it's okay to go beyond the minimum necessary force? Going beyond what's necessary will cost you effort. Overt strength and power are also rarely seductive. The people around you in this moment will think you're a totalitarian or a bully for using excessive force. Nothing can be gained by exercising your superiority over someone inferior. The momentary satisfaction you get will be far outweighed by the negative experience this person now associates with you. The receiver will become resentful over time and become scared, which will prevent you from getting what you want in the future. The aggressive types will also allow their resentment to turn active and engage in sabotage, which could ruin you. Remember, a person of little importance today may be important tomorrow. Assuming you are giving feedback to someone you love, excessive force will lead to the destruction of trust and the bond that exists between the two of you. Using coercion to force an outcome is a violation of that relationship. You are irreparably destroying the trust created within that relationship. Using the minimum necessary force becomes more important as the power imbalance between two people increases. No more is this fact evident than between parents and children. We are kind, gentle, and patient with children, using the minimum necessary force to yield compliance. People look down on mothers and fathers who use excessive force to impose compliance, and for a good reason. It's totally unnecessary. We should carry this understanding across to all our interactions and personal relationships in all avenues of life. The force used to enforce compliance should be done in stages, with increasing force at each stage until you reach the maximum force you can exert. Police are taught to do this very well, and their deployment of force is done in 6 stages. Stage 1, presence. Generally, the presence of a police officer in uniform is enough to command compliance to the law. If this doesn't have the intended effect, then the officer will progress to Stage 2. Stage 2, verbal command. A verbal command is issued to make clear what the officer wants the citizen to do. If this doesn't have the intended effect, then the officer will progress to Stage 3. Stage 3, verbal command with a consequence. If the verbal command is not obeyed, it's reissued with a consequence of non-compliance. If this doesn't have the intended effect, then the officer will progress to Stage 4. Stage 4, application of the consequence. The aforementioned consequence is applied to the citizen. It can include basic physical control of the offender with a low probability of causing injury. If this doesn't have the intended effect, then the officer will progress to Stage 5. Stage 5, application of the consequence with increased force. More force is applied to the citizen to enforce compliance. This force is likely to cause a non-permanent injury such as pepper spray, tasers, or other more physically aggressive response techniques. If this doesn't have the intended effect, then the officer will progress to Stage 6. Stage 6, application of the consequence with lethal force. More force is applied to the citizen to enforce compliance. This force is likely to be lethal or deadly in nature and has a high probability of causing death or serious permanent bodily injury. This is just an example of the progression of force. Although the stages of force may look very different for your interactions and relationships, the same principle should be applied when enforcing boundaries, giving feedback, or disciplining someone. Never jump to the later stages without first using the minimum necessary force, as this will destroy your relationships. Speaking generally, punishment hardens and numbs. It produces obstinacy. It sharpens the consciousness of alienation and strengthens the power of resistance. Friedrich Nietzsche. Something that helps to soften people's resistances to you is to apply a little warmth to the conversation. As Arthur Schopenhauer puts it, wax, a substance naturally hard and brittle, can be made soft by the application of a little warmth, so that it will take any shape you please. In the same way, by being polite and friendly, you can make people pliable and obliging, even though they are apt to be crabbed and malevolent. Hence, politeness is to human nature what warmth is to wax. Also understand that sometimes you can get your point across without exerting any force at all. With the right tactics, you can have people do anything you want them to do. If you can master the art of subtle manipulation without exerting any force at all, you can make people bend to your will. People won't even realise what you are doing, and because they think they are doing something of their own free will, they won't resist you. Even if they do know what you are doing, they are much more inclined to comply if your tactics are indirect and gentle. People appreciate others who make an effort to use subtle persuasion rather than overt force. To illustrate the effectiveness of this, I'm going to read a story from Aesop's Fables titled The North Wind and the Sun. The North Wind and the Sun had a quarrel about which of them was the stronger. While they were disputing with much heat and bluster, a traveller passed along the road wrapped in a cloak. "Let us agree," said the Sun, "that he is the stronger who can strip that traveller of his cloak." "Very well," growled the North Wind, and at once sent a cold, howling blast against the traveller. With the first gust of wind, the ends of the cloak whipped about the traveller's body, but he immediately wrapped it closely around him, and the harder the wind blew, the tighter he held it to him. The north wind tore angrily at the cloak, but all his efforts were in vain. Then, the sun began to shine. At first, his beams were gentle, and in the pleasant warmth after the bitter cold of the north wind, the traveller unfastened his cloak and let it hang loosely from his shoulders. The sun's rays grew warmer and warmer. The man took off his cap and mopped his brow. At last, he became so heated that he pulled off his cloak and to escape the blazing sunshine threw himself down in the welcome shade of a tree by the roadside. Gentleness and kind persuasion win where force and bluster fail. Understand that people are much more likely to do something of their own choosing. We all love the freedom that we feel when we are making our own choice. People are much less likely to resist you if they don't know you're influencing their decision. The notion that we are the masters of our own fate makes us that much more willing to do something and to do a good job of it. Offering someone a choice of two options, both leading to a sale, is a common tactic used to get people to buy. Do you want to sign up to the basic membership for $30 a month or the premium membership for $50 a month? A person is much more inclined to choose one over the other rather than declining to buy because they're the ones making the choice. Also understand that some people are just too insecure to receive negative feedback. A strategy that you can use for these people is to deliberately plant information that communicates your intentions. Rather than offering negative feedback, for example, telling your woman she needs to clean your laundry because you're running out of clothes, deliberately plant hints for her to clean your laundry that she can discover on her own. If the person you are dealing with is smart enough to understand, then you'll achieve the desired outcome with almost no resistance from them. You also have the added benefit of that person believing that they are smart enough to pick up on their bad behaviour and correct it of their own free will. Another tactic to use instead of using force is to point out the positives that are in it for others. Use the desires of others to your advantage rather than wasting valuable effort with force. Son, eat your steak if you want to be as strong as your father. This is quite challenging for those who lack empathy, but if you can train yourself to do this, there will be no upper limit to your power and influence. You must be able to cultivate the ability to enforce boundaries, give feedback, or discipline people. Our propensity to punish turns out to be one of the keys to large-scale cooperation. Punishment also reduces the desire for degenerate individuals to seek revenge. Take a look at the legal system, where we punish bad behaviour, which reduces barbaric crimes. The punishment increases with the severity of the crime, which permits people to work together under common expectations. This concept is universal. It's human nature to push the boundaries of what we can take until that boundary is enforced. Ernst Fehr and Simon Gachter were able to demonstrate this economically and socially. 240 Swiss students participated in a public goods experiment with real monetary stakes and two treatment conditions, punishment and no punishment. The 240 students were separated into groups of 4 members, and each member received an endowment of 20 money units, and each one could contribute between 0 and 20 money units to a group project. All the interactions in the experiment took place anonymously. Members were not informed of the identity of the others in their group and were isolated in cubicles. At the end of each round, the groups were shuffled so that each student played with 3 new members, and there were no chance to develop patterns of trust among members. At the end of each round, the pot earned 60% interest and was then divided evenly among the group, which the students were able to keep after the experiment. For example, if the 4 members in the group invested all 20 coins, the pot contained 80 coins and earned 60% interest to become 128 coins. Each member would then be returned 32 coins. After the investment decisions were made, the members were informed about the investment of the other group members for that round. Abstractly, each individual does best by investing nothing into the group pot and then obtaining 1/4 plus 60% interest of the money that the other members had invested into the pot. In the first round, the students generously contributed to the pot, averaging 10 coins, but by round 6, this fell to an average of 6 coins. From rounds 7 to 12, one change was made. After learning how much each student contributed at the end of the round, everyone had the ability to pay 1 coin to punish other members. Every coin paid would take away 3 coins from another. This is known as altruistic punishment, where individuals punish others at a cost to themselves and with no material future gain. Remarkably, cooperation skyrocketed on the very first round where punishment was allowed. Students invested an average of 12 coins in round 7 and it kept on climbing to an average of 15 by round 12. The experiment was also done in reverse to reduce variability with similar outcomes. In the presence of altruistic punishers, even the selfish subjects have a reason to cooperate in group environments. Punishing bad behaviour promotes virtue and benefits the group and even society. It's a key motive to wider group cooperation. Also understand that humans treat punishment more seriously than rewards. This is because humans treat losses more seriously than an equivalent gain, which is known as loss aversion. The punishment will elicit a stronger negative emotional response than the positive response experienced by an equivalent reward. This also translates across to issuing punishments. Humans feel a greater sense of satisfaction issuing a punishment or watching a punishment being issued compared with issuing or watching someone get issued with the same value reward, so go easy and escalate in stages. First, make people aware that you intend to punish undesirable behaviour if it keeps happening. Most of the time, people will only need to be aware of your intention to punish for them to cooperate. If they fail to cooperate to a level of your satisfaction, swiftly enact your punishment to establish a boundary that is uncomfortable enough that it prevents their desire to disrespect you in the future. Thanks for watching today's episode. In episode 104, I'll be discussing why rewards are absolutely useless at enforcing compliance. Subscribe and click the bell icon to be notified when it drops. Catch you then.